Explanation regarding original spirit and apostasy. BD number 8459. April 5, 1963, You, who want to be of service to me during the last days before the end, have all my care and attention. For you shall still correct many errors which I disclose to you and through which I hand you the means to take action against them, which you would never be able to do without the transmission of my word from above. I know where people's thinking is still confused, I know where opinions have taken root in them which they don't like to relinquish but which nevertheless do not correspond to truth. But I want to give light to everyone, I want to enlighten the thoughts of those who were given the task by me to spread the truth. I can only ever give you the same explanation, namely, that you are my once emanated beings which did not fulfill their purpose because they opposed me. What I emanated as strength were self-aware, intelligent living creations endowed with free will, thus not dead works but living ones, for my strength, which was their fundamental substance, is and will remain something alive which constantly wants to be active. This strength, therefore, was given the form of beings by me, although this had to be understood in a spiritual sense, for they were able to behold each other as most magnificent and brightly radiating living creations. Each emanated being was an individual being, it was externalized as an independent being and continually permeated by my strength of love. They were images of myself, they were miniatures of my own nature which were able to work independently in strength and light and were supremely perfect, since only perfection could come forth from me. And these beings apostatized from me, as a result of their free will they changed themselves into the opposite, they lost their perfection, became imperfect and wretched, for they rejected the divine light of love which permeated them and subsequently discarded their divinity. However, the beings continued to exist, they merely renounced love, and this was possible because as evidence of their divine origin they possessed free will which could be used in any direction and which expressed itself in opposition to God. The being had merely rejected God's strength of love, thus my continuous illumination of love, and that resulted in its fall into the abyss, because it became incapable of activity and hardened in its substance. Thus the being I once created in all perfection voluntarily distanced itself from me and moved ever closer towards the abyss. This apostasy of the spirits has been explained to you by me time and again, and you know what the apostasy consisted of, the fact that my love was being rejected. By doing so the being incapacitated itself to any kind of activity. But since the being itself was my emanated strength which could not remain inactive, this strength had to take effect in different ways, and this became possible by reshaping this strength into creations, which then had to be active according to my will. The fallen being therefore carried out an activity of service in different shapes under the law of compulsion. That which moves through the works of creation for the purpose of gradually ascending to higher spheres is the fallen spiritual living creation which once originated from me. It is the being I created in supreme perfection, which I externalized as my image and which, on an extremely painful and infinitely long-lasting path of return, shall now reshape itself again into that which it had been at the very beginning. The answer cannot be given to you more clearly when you ask what happened to the spirit when the being fell. Which spirit do you mean? I created spiritual beings and they fell away from me. The soul is therefore not the soul of a spirit but the soul itself is the once fallen original spirit which embodies itself in the human being to reach its final state of perfection. And when a non-fallen spirit embodies itself in a human being then his soul is this said original spirit, and not just part of it. The fact that all fallen spirits are also constantly looked after throughout the entire process of return by beings of light which have completely entered my will when they had to prove themselves is time and again explained to you, for their bliss consists of being able to contribute towards the fallen being's final return, and their overwhelming love constantly takes care of all creatures and always provides new shells which enable the fallen beings to ascend. For love will always act according to my will, and it therefore also flows continually to an imperfect soul so that it can consciously change itself during its life on earth and become again what it had been in the beginning. And this transformation can only be accomplished by love, which the being must kindle as a human being in order to find the union with me again, which turns it into a blessed being for all eternity. Amen.